Hyperinflation got me tripping. Jack Dorsey done Twitter, now he's dipping. Border agent on a horseback whipping.
What is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a ton coming up. We have everything that just happened in the last 5 days, what is happening today, who just left Twitter. Of course, Jack Dorsey quit or stepped down after saying hyperinflation is coming. Creepy timing. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Dance so close, you can smell my cologne. Dance so low, you break your bones. Dance to the flow like nobody knows. Dance like you do at home. Dance so close.
All right, what is going on? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Welcome to another live show. Tonight we're going to be covering a lot of subjects, so I do want to remind anyone who is new here that we make sure to back up everything we say with a source and a bibliography. When you go to our website, not only can you sign up for Marfoogle alerts and our email system, you can also go and see all of our sources. Now, when you go to our website, you'll see that it is all organized very easily by thumbnail, so you will look for why is he really leaving? And then you will click on that and talk about the CEO exodus today. And then once you get there, you will see that every single link, tweet, video, article, picture that we are going to show you here today is going to be backed up there. That way you know exactly where you are getting your stories from, what the source is, who wrote them, and everything else. That I believe is very important. Again, on the website, you will also find down the way a yellow bar. That is basically the stuff that is too hot for TV, the stuff that is getting hit left and right, the stuff that they won't let us talk about anymore. That is all on our website only. Again, go over there and check it out. It's all free. There is a ton of resources, ton of tweets, basically a collection of everything that didn't make the cut. And then over on the right side, you can see that all of our affiliates are there. If you want to do a PayPal donation to the show and have a quote read out or anything else, you can do so. You can use our Amazon link or go through any of our affiliates like EMP Shield or NordVPN. Any of those boxes end up going through that. That way, you end up getting a discount and you end up supporting us with a commission of your sale. So thank you guys. It is, again, how the ecosystem works on YouTube, especially with creators like myself and Dex, because we are touching on subjects that really they don't want touched. So let's bring in Dex. Dex is my co-host / internet brother. What is going on, Dex, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine. So
we have so much to cover. Again, the first story will be, going into the soft stuff. Then we'll be getting into, of course, Jack Dorsey left today. A lot of people were talking about that. I do want to mention, though, because it is fresh in my mind, so on November 20th or the 21st, I was given some information. And again, anyone that is here that knows me knows that I do not say, hey, on the 8th, this is happening, or on this day, this is going to happen. I am very careful. I do not say something that is going to happen unless, one, I either believe the source. If I get information, if I believe the source 100% without a shadow of doubt, or two, the level of that source. So like if it is somebody who has a reliable background that we've done we of course have basically backed up what they're saying, then I even question it, right? Well, I basically said a little bit matter-of-factly, I said that prominent member, prominent official member would be basically saying that we would be following Australia following Black Friday. There are several people that have been commenting back and forth on Twitter, and they said that we're nowhere close to Australia, and they used today's address as something proving that this is not going to happen. So first of all, the reason why President B actually said today that there, talked about lockdowns is because there's a huge question. Are we going to be locking down now? The new V that's going around and that is obviously all over the news. They're cutting travel from here to here to here to here. That is, of course, being pumped up, and everybody's talking about it. And they have now started restrictions in over 30 locations in different countries. They are cutting off travels. I mean, this is literally repeating history from the first time. They did a slow roll on, of course, cutting out flights from certain places, all of that, right? He came out and said, oh, there will be no additional downs, right? Lock, right? And people did not listen to that very carefully, because he said, if everyone goes and does this certain thing, and if everybody follows the rules, then there will be no need for additional downs, right? So I don't think people are listening clearly. There are a percentage of people that just will not do it, period. And that's just going to be something that most people won't accept. Of course, they're still doing the different rules for that. But I do want to point out, now there have been restrictions. There have been states like New York that have declared a state of emergency. There have been several things that have kicked in since Saturday. It was almost like immediately. See, Black Friday, all of these corporations, and if anybody knows, corporations actually run a lot of this country, in my belief. Corporations actually own huge chunks of these companies. In fact, there are people that are on the very tops of, Target and Walmart and Costco and all these companies that stayed open through the entire thing. They also have board members and CEOs that are also on boards of other things that have a whole lot to do with what we are going through right now. So guarantee you, of course, they wanted to get their moolah in on Black Friday. Cyber Monday, everybody can order from home. So when I was told that, I did repeat it, and I said after Black Friday that we will be following Australia. I didn't mean Austria. I meant Australia. Australia is not as bad as, of course, what they are doing in Austria, but it is pretty bad. And again, somebody said that we are not remotely close, and said that the president said that we will not have any additional this, but that was an if. That was if. My personal belief now is they are setting us up for round 2, and most people are like, oh, no, my state would never take that. My state would never do this. Your state would never do this unless they come down from the very top and say, this thing is absolutely the worst thing ever. It's 10 times as worse. And then the whole cycle comes out again. And this will be something that again, it doesn't matter how bad it was or how much people don't want it. That's when all of the stuff will kick in and all of the information will start flowing and how scary all this stuff is. And then all of a sudden, they end up having the right to do all of this. So we already see the corporations already preparing for something like additional restrictions. But again, what I originally said was not lockdowns. It was not, of course, anything else. It was following Australia. And as far as some of the things that are going down in Australia are going to happen here. And that has already happened. That's provable. So again, I'm not here to fearmonger, and especially not on Twitter, because I don't really say stuff, on Twitter. That's totally separate. It doesn't affect my channel either way. Negative stuff doesn't affect my channel on there. Again, but I want to say, like, these people, I don't know what is going through their heads, but again, if you look, it is all happening over again. It is all happening right now. And people are just, I don't see how people can't see it. My friend who works at a grocery store is already, they're now ordering all this extra stock because they think that they are going to run out of food. So that's from a Safeway branch, right? So we definitely will show you a lot of stuff that will back up what we say. Nothing is definite, though. I don't know everything, but when I do pass on something, I make sure that I pass on something that is reliable or that is solid. Otherwise, I clarify, this is my opinion. And if my opinions is that aliens are going to come down and swoop you up, then that's my opinion. Again, that's, you either want my opinion or you don't. You don't have to be here. You don't have to subscribe. You have to follow me to find my content. But some people, they just want to be negative and they think it hurts us in some way. Why watch something you absolutely hate? That's what I don't understand. Also, most of us here are thinking and talking about this 24/7 on our own. This is stuff that we would be doing anyways. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, this is what I would be talking about. This is what I would be researching. This is what I would be doing. It says secret documents reveal Canada isn't really investigating UFO sightings. It says, unlike in the U.S., credible UFO reports in Canada pretty much get canned. Declassified files obtained by Vice World News show. What they're saying is that there, of course, are different reports that have happened, and especially from the Royal Canadian Air Force, that have been reported and then, of course, not talked about, like they are, basically going unseen. It says that just after midnight, a Royal Canadian Air Force, or RCAF, squadron in Ontario received a call from Vancouver air traffic controllers about a viral intelligence sighting. Approximately 20 minutes earlier, on Air Canada Express, pilot flying to the city reported 3 red lights 3,000 feet above him and going slower, while 25,000 feet over an uninhabited stretch of British Columbia's rugged north coast. It says, according to the declassified documents acquired by Vice World News, the RCIF AF reviewed radar data but found nothing near the plane. Within an hour, reports had been faxed to the Canadian government's Transportation Department and the Air Force's Secret Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance Division in Winnipeg. There appears to have been no further follow-up. It says, I don't dispute that they saw the strange light, aviation consultant and former RCAF fighter pilot John Jock Williams told Vice News, and it may or may not be of strange origin. Who knows? But all I know is I'm not impressed with the level of investigation. So one thing that I have to say about this is, who knows if it was investigated or not? Maybe they have a MIB or like a Men in Black in Canada. I think that they would be... or maybe something around that, right? But they would wear some really nice black boots, right? Who knows? It says, though, Canada's Access to Information Act, Vice World News has obtained multiple daily log files from the Canadian Air Defence Sector, or CADS, which is responsible for identifying and monitoring air traffic approaching North America under NORAD. It says the Joint Canada-U.S. Defense Group once classified secret. The digital logbook entries details CAD's day-to-day operations and confirm that while the Canadian Air Force documents UFO sightings, it generally does little with the reports. It says, quote, you have evidence of the fact that they are aware of this kind of stuff. At the same time, you have the evidence of the fact that nothing is happening. Williams, who spent 36 years in the Canadian Forces, said these guys are getting paid one way or the other. They might as well be investigating. So one thing that I don't see in this is they don't question that maybe there's a secret investigation going on, obviously, or if they absolutely know that this is a U.S. flight, a U.S. craft. If this is some sort of U.S. test craft flying over Canada, it could be a Canadian craft. What do you think, Dex?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's kind of important here is that if Russia was going to be testing stuff and trying to get it as close to the U.S. as possible, using Canada's airspace would be one of those tricks. So if there is unidentified objects up there, I would think it would probably be at least in our national interest for Canada, being our neighbor, to really be looking into that stuff and at least sharing it with us and reporting it with us, because that's probably a likely place for it to come from if it's, man-made versus, unman-made, right?
Yeah, and you would think that would be, held in high rapport as far as, and then we have NORAD that's pointing up, we have that there. So it's like, why aren't we investigating at least? And we work very closely. They're close allies. So why isn't that happening? By the way, Lead Dispenser, thank you. Just purchased 6 months of toilet paper. And again, why toilet paper would be the first thing to go, I have no idea. It says, I know if it's true or not, I got your back. Hey, Lead Dispenser, I appreciate you. Divine 1122, Light of Love, everyone. Truth wins. Okay, you want to hear another thing, too, about that? The world elites right now, and again, are preparing for this virtual world. If you've ever seen the movie Songbird, a lot of people are starting to wonder if that really is like a world script, because in that movie they show you CV and then show you the 23, right? The 23rd variation, or in that one they call it by the year it was discovered. In that movie they show everyone from home. Look at what not Jack Dorsey, what Zuckerberg is doing with Facebook. He is switching over a multi-billion-dollar company. In fact, it might even be worth $1 trillion or something. I heard something like it was about to hit $1 trillion in worth or something. Whatever it is, however many billions it's worth, they are putting everything, all of their eggs into this metaverse, into this virtual retail space. Think about it. The World Economic Forum says in the future, you will own nothing and be happy. Think about what Elon is doing. They are creating Neuralink. We are talking about a Black Mirror episode here where very soon, Dex and I were talking about this, where you will be hooked up directly to a computer. They will be able to load images into your brain, kind of like Inception or something like that. But this isn't sci-fi. This is the future. And they say that this is going to get to the point where you won't need goggles. You will have something either on your on your actual eyeballs, like a screen that changes what everything you see, and they already have the designs, patents, all for that. And the reason why people think that Facebook, especially in Meta, is going to be the leader in this, and why everybody is trying to snatch up their stock, is because they own all of these patents. And obviously, there's only really a few ways that technology, video games, and everything with social media. Think about how many people now still use a 6-inch device in their hand to consume this content. They're looking for new ways to get this to us. With the technology that they're already working on, we're talking about a neural link. We would directly be connected to the internet. They said that is the only way that we can battle AI. I mean, this is like where we're partly connected with the internet, with these computers. I mean, we're not even talking about regular human beings at that point. We're talking about, Neo from the Matrix, being able to download stuff, being able to see anything instantly just by thinking it. This is not some far-off Star Trek. This is already being tested and worked on. Not to mention, look at the drastic changes that are about to happen. Of course, at the summit that just happened, they're talking about the proponents of changing everything. They're saying we're basically going to change everything on the road, everything around the world in just 8 years. By 2030, and again, some people could go, oh, well, they won't get it done that quick. I wouldn't say that. In the last 2 years, look at how much has changed in just a short amount of time. People are going to start waking up left and right, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, how did this just pass me by? This is happening right now, and people are not seeing it. People are literally all around us, and they're not seeing it. They're brainwashed into thinking that, everything is going to be fine, that none of these bad things are going to happen. But unfortunately, this is where we're at. Dex, do you have anything before we move on to SK?
Well, there's lots of things to unpack when you think about where they may or may not be trying to take us, and whether or not, this whole notion of the metaverse and building, islands and doing other things like that, for the purposes of, I guess, restricting mobility and restricting movement. It's kind of interesting thought process, right?
Absolutely, and as far as everywhere that the things are going, it looks like people are hedging bets on this new virtual world and this virtual retail space, and it's already happening. If you have kids, then you already know this. All of the kids are not only just watching people play video games on computer, the big thing now, and it's not a fad, it's not a trend, it is now converting over, is kids are watching these people play video games in virtual reality. I have a virtual reality headset. I've had it for a couple of years. It was one of the original Oculus before they did Facebook, and then I got the Quest and found out you had to do Facebook, and I took it back, the portable version of it, right? Because I didn't have one. Either way, this virtual reality was at a really good point. It's way more advanced than it was just even like 5 years ago, but it's huge. But they're taking this way further. We're talking about where it's indistinguishable from real life, and they've already told us this. People just don't believe it. People don't believe it until it happens, and then all of a sudden they're like, I can't believe we came this far. Where processing and where computers are going with, if once we get to quantum computing and AI, I mean, this is going to be an insane world. So something's got to pop. Something has to break. I'm not saying that we're at the end of the world, but again, I have a feeling that everything is just going to come down on us at once. I find a lot of weird things, like all the CEOs leaving. As far as Jack Dorsey, we'll talk about him in a minute, but him saying hyperinflation is coming. Hyperinflation is a disaster. Hyperinflation is just as big of a disaster as like a volcano in a lot of ways. We're talking about the economic just destruction that it causes could just be absolutely horrendous. So for him to say that and then just like a week and a half later to step down from Twitter, that's weird. We have over 5,000 CEOs that have stepped down in just the last 2 years. Why? What are they doing? And they're stepping down and they're not taking other jobs. They're just stepping down. It says SK hopes to build sustainable floating city by 2025. It says the world's first floating city will be built off of the coast of Korea. And it says that it will be a hurricane-proof, flood-proof, and self-sustaining. So let me ask you this. Why does it need to be hurricane-proof, and why does it need to be flood-proof? That's another question I have. It says the United Nations-backed project will be constructed off the coast of Busan and designed as a response to rising sea levels. Isn't that a trip? This is like Waterworld, is it not? Dex, did you think about that?
That's what I thought when I heard this. It definitely sounds just like it.
Kevin Costner and Waterworld. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a classic. Some people either hate it or they love it. I love that movie, especially when I was younger. I watched that a lot. It's where, the whole world is underwater. Who knows? Was that predictive programming? I don't know. It says the futuristic city will be made up of large hexagonal platforms that float on the water. It says the design will utilize a limestone coating that's buoyant, despite being 2 to 3 times as hard as concrete, project leaders told the outlet. It says the ultimate goal for pioneering project is to create a flood-proof community able to withstand a Category 5 hurricane for 10,000 residents. It will also be able to produce its own food, energy, and fresh water with communal farming at the heart of every platform. Why do you think they need this? Why do you think that the UN is backing a flood-proof city? Is this the first of many to be made? Are we talking about biblical flooding? They have told us, and this is all backed up. This is them telling us in public. They told us that in 2030, we will see catastrophic flooding. They used those words. Scientists said because of the moon wobble, that it's going to screw up the tides on Earth and we're going to see catastrophic flooding events. Is this why they are trying to go to space? What in the hell is going on? Is there something coming that's going to screw up our gravity on Earth or what? Who knows? I don't know, but I do see it's very clear that this isn't like a small company saying, "Hey, we're going to back this sustainable island." This is a ton of companies backing sustainable cities and the UN backing a floating, sustainable, flood-proof city made out of limestone. I mean, how many... It's like if this was a bad B movie, everybody would be going, oh, well, I can see what's next. There's going to be a disaster. But then people are just, they're brainwashed into thinking that everything is just going to get better. And they call stuff like this fear-mongering. I don't get it. It's not fear-mongering, it's seeing. Like, I just don't see how people don't have their eyes open to see all of this. If they actually spent the time and spent time watching us, we don't fear-monger. We show you the patterns. The patterns are right there. And everything is, I mean, what hasn't come true at this point? We told you that the WHO was preparing for this event here. And now they are telling us, they're giving it to us on a platter saying, hey, there's another one coming and it's going to be worse. They're saying that it's going to, why do you think that they're preparing for this whole world of you being in a little pod or in your home? You're not going to be able to leave your home. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy because guess what? You'll have everything you want in the virtual world. That's a freaky thought, but that's what I think about is that World Economic Forum quote.
A couple other things that come to mind here. In addition to Waterworld, there's also the notion of Noah, right? So building this floating, city is sort of like building the ark in the sense of bringing everybody on to, survive the flood or survive the rising waters, right? The other thing that I was thinking is if this technology actually works and it's economical and something they can literally do easily, can these things be movable? Will they be anchored or will they have some sort of propulsion where they can shift them around the world? And if they can, the other thing to think about is 71% of the globe right now is covered by water. So that means there's 71% of, the surface area that we could expand anything from agriculture to, habitats for humans to live on outside of the current land that we're living on now, right?
I mean, you could have farms on, if you had big enough platforms, you could have farms on the water. I mean,
and you could move them so they stay in season.
Where would they get all the materials for this though? It's just, this is crazy because this does remind me of a water world. I mean, look at how they even set it up. It's like in a circle, kind of like how they had the walls of the city in Waterworld. This is some freaking just crazy stuff. These are, of course, our architectural drawings and CGI of what they want it to look like or some ideas of what it would look like. But I mean, this isn't far off. We're talking about in our lifetime, every single country is telling us that we're headed off a cliff, right? Why would they do that unless there's something that's going to happen? If it's not what they say it is and the people that don't believe it's happening, then what is it? There's got to be a catastrophic event coming. Why do you think people like Shatner are saying these things? Why do you think that all of the elites are trying to go to space? Why do you think Prince William is scoffing at them? He's in the know, and he's saying, these guys are just, I'm disgusted that they don't fix our planet. Instead, they're trying to get off of it. Well, why are they trying to get off of it? Well, Elon has said himself, and this is the richest man, and nobody calls him fear-mongering for SpaceX and for trying to go to Mars. People call him a hero and a inspiration, right? But what is his goal? He has said point blank that if humanity is to survive, we have to go on 2 planets. Why did Space Force get put in? And of course, everybody clowned on it because it was during the T-Man administration, but that Space Force didn't get canceled the second the new president came in. In fact, it's been expanded. Why do you think they're doing DART tests? Why do you think they're doing evacuation tests in New York for an asteroid to hit? Why are they doing all these doomsday scenarios if none of them are going to happen? That's what I don't understand. Why is NASA coming up with plans to pump cold water into Yellowstone to stop it from exploding or to release pressure so it doesn't if they're not worried about it? It's like if you look at all of the kind of doomsday scenarios, there's multiple that are actual real scenarios, and they're almost all of them have like an overdue tab on it. It's like if that's how I find it hard to find that there's not a God. If all of these things are lining up during our little tiny lifetime on this earth, Dex and I were talking about it. If you actually think about what we might be in the future, if we're hooked up through Neuralink and we're hooked up through all of this stuff and we're hooked up and we are the computers and we're feeding our brain, And that's why Elon Musk has said, well, there's no guarantee that this life right here, everything you see, you're not actually already hooked up. Straight up the Matrix, like you are already in a pod somewhere and you think this is real life. That's, there's lots of theories around that, but he says that there's actual scientists doing quantum physics trying to figure out if we are actually in a simulation. And that's just crazy to think about, that people are taking this seriously. People at Harvard and Stanford and these and incredibly Ivy League schools are looking at this and actually taking it seriously. It's just, we're just in the craziest time ever, but who's to say that maybe we're the only people that have lived? It's just absolutely nuts to go over. But this is supposedly where we are headed. And then team builds first living robots that can reproduce. This is like sci-fi day here. AI designed xenobots reveal entirely new form of biological self-replication, promising for regenerative medicine. It says to persist, life must reproduce. Over billions of years, organisms have evolved many ways of replicating, from budding plants to sexual animals to invading Earths, right? And it says now scientists at the University of Vermont, Tufts University, and the Weiss Institute for Biological... Hold on here. What happened? Biologically inspired engineering have discovered an entirely new form of biological reproduction and applied their discovery to create the first ever self-replicating living robots. Just to repeat that, and applied their discovery to create the first ever self-replicating living robots. The same team that built the first living robots, or xenobots, or zenbots, assembled from frog cells, reported in 2020, has discovered that these computer-designed and hand-assembled organisms can swim out of their tiny dish, find single cells, gathered hundreds of them together, and assemble baby xenobots inside their Pac-Man-shaped mouth. That a few days later become new xenobots that look and move just like themselves. And then these new xenobots can go out, find cells, and build copies of themselves again and again. With the right design, they will spontaneously self-replicate. Dex, can you even believe that you're reading things like this?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And the way it works, like they're almost Pac-Man-like, and capturing everything they need to reconstruct themselves and then build it out. Yeah. When does it stop growing? I guess when it doesn't have any more material, but it's like almost if the material was actually in nature, then what would happen?
We're talking about self-replicating robots, tiny. We're talking about stuff that was only in the movies. We're talking about our lives are changing, folks. Like, you better get on a train to somewhere. As far as spiritually, you're just gonna have to realize, like, who you are real quick. Delaware Sasquatch says OMI leads to LDS, LDs lead to jobs lost or downs, right? Lock. And it says jobs lost leads to stimulus handouts. Handouts lead to VOTEs. Learned now you have. Well, yeah, it's easy if coming up they say, oh, well, if you don't have a job right now, if you V for me, then we'll give you free money, right? I think I want to say it was a representative. I believe it was a House representative that said today to one of the honorary other House representatives or administrator, basically told this woman, it was an African American House representative, that basically said that what was he saying? He was basically telling her how the handouts and that the stimulus was not going to help people get people back to work, that it was building back broke. That's what he said it was. And he said, if you're trying to offer people $1,000, all these restaurants and things are offering $1,000 bonuses and $1,500 bonuses just to work at a $15 an hour job. They're offering and putting all these things out just to get people to go and work, or giving them bonuses for working extra hours. It said if you are giving people, $300 or whatever amount of money per child, and it's going for free, is that honestly going to actually help people go and take extra hours, or is that going to make them take less hours, considering that they go, oh, maybe I don't need to have overtime this week. I'm getting $1,300 or I'm getting $1,200, for my kids, and that will pay for their food, so I don't really need it. It does make a lot of sense when you look at his argument. But again, it's like, do people think that this comes from nowhere? And then I was talking to somebody else about how their Social Security. I have a good friend, his wife has had a double lung transplant. And I was really shocked to hear the stuff that was not covered by her insurance. And as far as we were talking about Social Security, the fact that you spend your whole life, you're taxed on your paycheck. So you're taxed on everything that you make, and then you put that money to Social Security. You think, well, you're giving this money, it's going off in this side pot, it's gaining interest for the government. You would think that you would at least get that money back, or some of it, right? Well, it turns out you can get taxed on up to 85% of the money that they already took. So the wages that were already taxed, they took a chunk of that, and then they're going to tax up to 85% of that. So it's like it's like double dipping. It's just insane. That's why so many people are pissed off about all of these different things that are going in. And by the way, the majority of the people don't realize what is getting altered in our laws right now. This is why you can really see a pattern. Once you start seeing the bills that they're putting in, like the tracking of bank accounts, the switches to the digital, everything that is happening, the tracking of almost everything. Our phones have already done a good enough job, but they're like, hey, we need to go 10 steps higher in tracking and invading privacy. So that is the next step. And all of this is all connected. I mean, this is just insanity. Wouldn't you agree, Dex, that we're going into like a hyper police state / whatever the hell you want to call this Orwellian nightmare?
I don't know if we're going into it or if we just need to wake up and realize we're in it, right? I mean, it just totally, all the puzzle pieces are there. All the technology is there. A lot of it is activated. A lot of it is being used. And some of it's being used and we don't know about. And the rest of the switches are just waiting to be flipped.
Just waiting to be flipped there. End is near. Thank you, Bear Claws. Bear Lover. Truth wins. Saw Greenland again. Same news insignia as Meta. Oh, that's weird. I will have to go check that out. I have seen Greenland like 3 or 4 times now. I bought it because it was the only way that you could watch it when it came out, after watching it for free on the internet, and then owned it. And it's one of the few videos that I can just like put on when if I don't have the cable. And then Bear Claws, Divine 1122, thank you. The end is near. Paps, thank you for just following. And then over on YouTube, thank you everybody that has popped in right now. Divine Disruptor, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. Welcome to the Mafia. Falcon, thank you for subscribing as well. Vic Santiago, it seems there has been a lot of aerosol action in the past week or so. The sky has been every day. God bless you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. God bless you, Foogle fam. Hey, thank you. And then Ari Martinez and Anthony Gilda, J. Ed, thank you for subscribing 30 minutes ago. Believer in Christ, thank you for your early support of the show. I really appreciate that. And then I believe I missed Renee Alera. Thank you for your massive support of the show. I am sorry that I missed that. That was actually before the show. So before it even started, you were supporting Renee Alera. I think I said that right. And then Diane Moses says, God bless you all. Going to bed 5 a.m. comes early. I'll watch tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hey, thank you as well for saying that, because I always forget. And then I just want to make a really big point. Thank you to just everybody that's patient with how we do things, as far as we asked for feedback recently, and I listen to every piece of feedback, negative or positive. I understand when people are just complaining about complaining, but I also understand that if you don't listen to criticism and you don't actually listen to people, then you're not going to go anywhere. So the one thing I did hear a lot was that we need more guests. We're working on that, and we were trying to fix on how to bring people on with video. And then another thing is, of course, people say, well, is there a different way you can do shout outs? I just want to explain, because of the stuff we cover and because of the people that try to hit us and do all this stuff, it is really hard for us to do this for a living. Everybody understands that this is our job. So for us and Dex and I to make a living, we can't make it the traditional way. If we were doing photography or videography review or reviewing cell phones or something, we don't get hit with the same stuff. Again, nobody wants to put anything on stuff like this. And even if they do, they don't even have to mark us as the recipient. That's the thing. They changed the rule last year. Even if you're not monetized, you can have ads on your video. They did that so they could gain all of the ad time and all the ads on, say, little tiny channels as well. If you just start a channel and get 10 million views, you don't even have 1,000 subscribers, you can still have ads on your stuff. Basically, if it's on YouTube, they can put ads on it. So I appreciate everybody that understands the ecosystem, and how, if we didn't shout out the people that supported us, that would basically be saying, like, the only support that we have, the people that are going through affiliates and doing super chats, if we didn't shout them out, then we would not be basically we would not be calling out the people that are keeping us going. So I do appreciate everybody's patience with that. Also, I think that a lot of really good info comes through the comments and through the chat as well. Make sure to say thank you to the mods. They've got a lot of awesome stuff down there. Parag Agrawal to replace Twitter, and if I said that name totally wrong, Agrawal, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey today after Techstar hit by controversies, sending Twitter stock soaring. So Dex, can you explain why would this make it go up? Is it because they think it's like a fresh start, or why would that actually send it up?
He's not exactly like everyone's favorite CEO. He's very controversial, right? Like, his performance on Capitol Hill was lackluster. His, a lot of the public positions he takes are not necessarily, hot for Wall Street, so to speak, right? And Wall Street's a totally different, animal. So, they are looking at this like, this is a company that's a public company. People invest money in it. They expect it to grow and make money. And if it's been on a decline, you need to make changes to get that company back turning in the right direction. And by the way, it's a tech company, and all these tech companies should be booming. Why would a tech company not be, progressing and doing, better than it was the year before, right? Technology is the future, right? So that's how Wall Street sort of looks at this. So when there's a problem and they see somebody, exodus and leave, they're going to be excited. They can react negatively if they think, hey, that was probably a good leader and we're losing him because maybe he took a better job somewhere. Or in this case, they could say, hey, he's leaving and it's probably going to be better for the company in the long term. So the value will probably go up because under different leadership, it might be more successful.
Yeah, well,
that's just Wall Street's reaction. I mean,
by the way,
a lot of other reactions.
There were a couple. Did you put some of the controversial tweets in the web only of the guy that took over for Jack?
I think we did. Yeah, it's in the first one in web
Jeff
only.
and Susan are looking.
Hold on 1 second. Let me pause this. Sorry, Dex, I had to silence. It's going to say, two old people walk in fields. There's no side effects, including death. Puking randomly. Hold on. Why? I hate... This is why. By the way, before every show, for us to play all of these articles, we basically take every single article and then put it through so we can show it to you without ads and without all this crap. What I was going to show you, of course, was the hyperinflation tweet, and then a lot of people ended up weighing in on this. And a lot of these super elites, and we're talking about the top 10, are basically preparing for some sort of event. And we already know this. Atlas Survival Bunkers, he says he is building a massive underground bunker for one of the top 5 richest people in the world. He says he can't communicate which one it is, but a lot of people have taken a lot of guesses, considering some of the ones that have made public statements about that. So, and we know Billy, right? Mr. Gates, he has underground bunkers in almost all of his properties. That he has blurted out, and he's talked about, and of course, really, really crazy quotes there. So we know that at least 2 of the top 5 richest people in the world have underground bunkers. I would assume that Elon would, because he owns an actual burrowing company. He owns the boring company, which can bore underground tunnels and things like that. You would think he is the literal, or at least publicly, the richest man publicly in the world. You would think he has so much money, he could make himself an underground mountain house. You're talking about his chump change interest on a quarter of his money can buy a super yacht that turns into a freaking sub. So it says Jack Dorsey's claim in his tweet said hyperinflation will happen soon in the U.S. and so the world. It will happen soon in the U.S. And we're talking about hyperinflation. This is literally a disaster on its way. I mean, this is insanity. So we'll see what happens. Believer in Christ, thank you for your support. Again, thank you. That Gen X dude, thank you for your support of the show. So, Dex, I hope I didn't cut you off as far as what you were saying.
Well, no, I was just my response was specific to Wall Street's opinion. There's a lot of other opinions about what's going on here. There's a lot of other unknown things that are going on here as to whether or not there's connections to certain events, or whether or not, like you said, he's on his way out because he knows something's happening. There's a lot of other questions, but my point was just really about why Wall Street reacted the way they did.
Well, and as far as going up and the stock soaring, obviously people are looking at it and thinking as a good thing. I am looking at it like Jack Dorsey. Why is he stepping down? Does he know something is coming? This is just a short couple weeks after him saying hyperinflation was coming and soon in the U.S. and in the world. He's telling us that there will be a disaster soon and that everything is going to be going down. So is he stepping down to, I don't know, get ready for it, to start prepping, or what? Let's see here. So just want to show you also the exodus. This has been for the last 2 years. There was the CEO exodus of 2019, and then there was the CEO exodus of 2020. Oh, okay. So 2020 beat 2019, and this is like out of nowhere. This didn't happen. These numbers didn't happen before this. And then all of a sudden, everyone left. All of the richest people in the world, the people that are getting paid, 22 million, 44 million a year, some of them a month, all left. It said 2019 had the most CEO departures on record with more than 1,600. Now that number ended up, and this was in January 8th, 2020, that number at the end of 2021 jumped over 5,000. So it was like everybody was leaving. And we're talking about some of the biggest ones out there. We're talking about the Disneys. We're talking about the Comcast. Like almost every huge company had big CEOs that left and they didn't take another position. Why? Why did they leave, and why did they basically retire? Some of them were 27 years old and they were just done for the rest of their life. Well, you could say, oh, they're just so rich that they're done, that they made enough money and they just retired. No. You're talking about just insane numbers. Why are they leaving? Some have theorized that they're leaving to spend times with their families or to get prepared for some massive event. If you think that it is crazy that we might be heading into a massive event, then I would say look at what really has happened in the last 2 years. Look at how every single country in the world, virtually every country, has cooperated, and the countries that didn't mysteriously had, leadership change forcefully in some cases, like Haiti and things like that. Anybody who didn't play ball was kicked out of the game permanently. As far as the countries that did, what were they told to make them jump on board? Were they afraid for their own safety, and that's why they did it? Or was there something else? Do they know something that we don't? Some say that it's leaked on the dark internet, that they know something is coming. What do you think it is? I want to get your opinions. Again, I'm not here to tell you what's happening. I'm here to tell you what I think and what my opinions are. I believe we have multiple things happening at once. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for the mods. They're doing an awesome job keeping it a positive place down there. Over 4,500 on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you over on D Live, Lurker One, Nuclear Raw, Nuclear Waw. Thank you, Renegade PD, Pam Beth, and Callum Murray. Thank you for following. So,
Adam, one other thought on Jack is he, I think, owns somewhere around the neighborhood of 800 million from Twitter, but he has had two CEO positions simultaneously. The other one was at Square, and I think that one was like 10 billion, or 9 billion, something like that. So when you put the two together, I think he was worth 13. Well, the two together, you got 10 billion in value, but just keep that in mind. Like he's a CEO in a position where he owns 10 billion at Square, and he's a CEO at Twitter where he only owns like 800 million. So, he also may be looking at that as a, where he's spending his time and where he makes most of his money.
I just wonder, Square was like the top of its game as far as like mobile readers, but now it seems like other companies have actually taken that place. I've seen a lot, and most of the time I go, is that Square? And they say no. A lot of mobile reading companies that take credit cards. If you ever went to like a farmer's market or anything like that, they have these little things that plug into the phone. That was Square. It was a genius idea. Others took it, and some have even done it a lot better. So I wonder how long Square happens before competition gets so big. I don't think they have a monopoly on it. That's for sure.
No, but it'll be interesting to see, if he makes any changes there, because that will be telling as well.
Yeah, if he bounces out from there as well. All right. By the way, we want to remind you, if you do want to support us, again, that is part of it. But also, we want to remind you that this is something we've shown you why we believe what we believe, and we've shown you proof of what they are saying. We've shown you why we believe the things we believe, and we've done it with backed up sources. And that's why we have pointed out EMP Shield. They are doing their Black Friday / Cyber Monday sale, which, again, that actually stacks on top of our grandfathered in the discount that we get, which is $50 off per device. If you haven't seen them yet, make sure to go over and check them out. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, it can protect you against all three phases of an EMP. It can protect your generators, your solar generators, again, your car, your house, your RVs, your motorcycles, pretty much anything that you don't want to fry, after an EMP or a CME, then you might want to get this on there. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. Again, you will get $50 off plus a staggering amount. If you get multiples, they end up staggering the amount all the way up to $50 off additionally on the device. And I think there's even more if you get multiple devices. So let me play Tom Homan again. Check them out. Make sure to go check them out. And again, if you use our code, you'll get that discount on top of the Black
Donald
Friday.
Trump. And I'm here to ask America to wake up. You can protect yourself, and at the same time protect this great nation. The threat of electromagnetic pulse is real. EMP, If you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a matter of life and death. I recently partnered with a Midwest company, veteran-owned, that has developed a device you can hook up to your home or your vehicle to protect you against an EMP. I highly encourage you to go to empshield.com and research this device. Again, it will protect you, in the long term, protect this great nation. Thank you.
That was Tom Homan, former ICE director. Make sure to go over and check it out, EMP at marfooglenews.com/EMP. All those sales end up helping us support ourselves and our show. Thank you for everybody that has done that. Again, I think it's a win-win for everybody. You're protecting yourself. You are supporting your favorite show. And again, you are supporting an awesome company. They're not only veteran-owned, but if you've ever talked to anybody over there, you'll know the owners and founders, they're actually preppers, and they're in this community. They watch the show. Andrew watches the show. They stop by like normal people, and they end up actually supporting us as well. So, again, really, really awesome company. But, again, people don't get confused, because I supported protecting yourself against EMP for 2 years before we ever worked with anybody. I've been telling people almost virtually every episode to protect themselves against this since before that. So don't get it twisted. Like, people need to look at this, and they need to look at what the world is preparing for. Something is going down, and it's massive. I wish I knew exactly what it was. But in the meantime, a lot of us are, I guess, questioning. We're all trying to put the puzzle pieces together. I hope everyone here ends up looking into it. Kimberly, thank you for your support. And then, again, you can always say something. Thanks for the super sticker. Bible Talk for Common People. Guess my first super chat was worded bad, so it let me say, war is imminent. It's obvious. That's funny. Yeah, so we don't choose that, right? Sometimes YT, this platform, will actually censor your super chats and won't let you do it. I've had that on Jacob Israel's, where I have tried to type 4 or 5 things, and then I've rewrote it 5 or 6 times, and I cannot say what I did. Tonight it happened, and I ended up saying, support your local Jacobs at the very end of his show. It wouldn't let me do all this stuff. It wouldn't let me say God bless. It just kept going back over and over again. Stage set for Ghislaine Maxwell's trafficking trial. It says 2 years after EpiPen's behind bars, and I love how they put it. They should put apparent or supposed, right? 2 years after Jeffrey EpiPen's apparent or supposed behind bars, a jury is set to be picked on Monday in New York City to determine a central question in the long-running trafficking case. Was his longtime companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, EpiPen's puppet or accomplice? Now, for this one woman on Twitter said, I was telling Dex about this, was saying sarcastically, saying, oh, yeah, all these scientists and all the world governments and all these agencies are all in on a big secret, and they're all cooperating, and they're all out to get us, right? Most of you probably have a thought when I say that, right? That's so unheard of, that the entire world could be in on something, right? EpiPen has pictures with the Pope, with Gates, with all of these rich people, with actual royalty. Prince Andrew, everyone. Just the connections were deep. And then you find out what was happening there. These are uber rich. These are elite rich. These are the people that get bored of normal things. So they, we're talking. There have been real cases of, like, the movie The Pest, where they hunt humans, or The Hunt. That actually happens. There are people, there are missing people that I guarantee you, a few of these are actually people that got taken out to hunt. Because that is a real thing, that the uber elite, they literally see us as sheep. They see us as animals. You should see how some of them have been videotaped and recorded talking about just normal people. We are the scum on the bottom of their shoes. They were all involved in this stuff. This is the nastiest, grossest stuff ever. If you know about what EpiPen was doing and the stuff that was around it, it's absolutely disgusting. And what's even worse is that they write, his the way that he passed publicly behind bars. Do you realize how powerful you have to be to knock somebody off in a jail under watch with cameras? The cameras just disappeared. The footage disappeared. I mean, and nobody, I mean, people still don't think like, hello, you had Prince Andrew and all these other people that he could have snitched on. They weren't going to let that happen. I personally still think that he may, and this is just my personal crazy thought, that he may be alive because he might have a kill switch, which means that if, something happens, that if something happened to him, that it would all get released. And then Ghislaine, we'll see what happens with this trial, but what if it ends up being like a total like, oh, she's acquitted or she gets off on some loophole or something. And then they go meet up and they live the rest of their life in the Bahamas or something. Or they start a new island that's completely private, protected by a local government in Botswana or something. Who knows? But no, would I put it past the world governments and everybody to do something wrong and to cooperate on it? No. I'm surprised people do. I'm surprised people don't see that. Let me turn this off real quick. Dex, would you, as far as the Maxwell case?
Yeah. So this just got started today. So that's kind of another interesting point. Today is the start, at least the opening statements begun. There's no insight, like there's no, live feeds or any reporting or anything that's necessarily coming directly from inside. So we'll have to see what kind of reporting comes from, what information is allowed to come out.
Why isn't this public? Why isn't this like the Rittenhouse? Like this should be public. We should be hearing every little thing on this trial. Why is this one not public, but the other one was? Why is something like that public and why is this not?
I think it's interesting, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go look into who the judge is, look into what connections they have to whom. And, things like that. That doesn't necessarily mean why it is or is not public. I think, some of the content in this event is certainly sensitive. And because it deals with children, it is more than likely an easily justifiable position from any judge to say, hey, we're not going to, put this out over television because there's just too much going on here that's not appropriate for necessarily the world to see. But I don't know that they actually are going to close off how much of they're going to close off the courtroom. And then I guess eventually the court reporting and everything would be made public or, it's not going to be unpublic. So that should all be available as it, progresses, or I should say, as it, wraps up. But it's certainly interesting because, this is the time when the facts, as they call them in these cases from either side, are going to be brought forward. Right. And they're going to start providing evidence and providing, who said what, who talked to who was on what plane, who knew who, and you're probably going to hear a bunch of names come up. And this is probably the thing that they're not going to want in the media. They're not going to want to report about in the media. And anybody that's connected to it is probably going to want to hide out for a while and not be in the limelight.
Just nuts. It says 5 ways Maxwell could win her trafficking case as her trial gets underway. And this one has some ways that she could hit some loopholes. It says Maxwell is due to face 4 alleged victims in the dock tomorrow as her trial gets underway in New York. But there are 5 ways the socialite, 59 years old, could win her case as she faces up to 80 years in jail on 6 charges, including of a minor. It says she is accused of doing this several of disgraced financier EpiPen. Maxwell was arrested in July 2020 and maintained her innocence ever since. The heiress denies recruiting and underage girls for EpiPen to from 1994 to 1997. Sources close to Maxwell reportedly told the Mail she will do whatever it takes to clear her name. And then, of course, it goes the 5 reasons scapegoat for this: the desire for cash, false memories of abuse, and then right to fair trial, that could go wrong, and then age of the viewer. So we'll see. There's a lot of different ways. If you want to go and read this in detail, you can go over to marfooglenews.com. And this is a perfect time to remind you that you can actually search on our website. If you remember us saying anything during any show in the last year, you can end up going over to the search bar on our website. If we talked about, putting speed bumps in a parking lot, you can type that in from that episode, and then it will bring you the episode we talked about putting speed bumps in a parking lot. Just an example, again, picking like the most stupid story you would see on the news, right? But again, you can actually use that to your advantage. If you remember me saying something about a story previously and you want to make a connection that I haven't made, let me know. Lately, a lot of people have been messaging me on Twitter DMs, and they go, do you remember when you said this? And they've actually been pointing out things that we covered, and they made the connection that I didn't yet. So you guys are really awesome, especially the people that watch every day. You know all of these stories. They're in your head, especially the people that have watched this show religiously for the last 3 years. You know how much we've covered. And when you cover all of the news and you file it down, you start picking out and you go, wow, they told us this before it happened. And it just keeps happening over and over again. We are heading into a huge event, and they're telling us. That's why I don't get why people are still just so... I think it's because they're afraid, and they're afraid then turns into anger. Fear turns into anger, and then it turns into, trolling. Disney Plus drops Simpsons episode in Hong Kong because of Tiananmen Square joke. No flipping way. So Disney, one of the hugest companies in the world, just bowed down to China. Pretty sad if you ask me. It says the 2005 episode features the Simpson family visiting Beijing, where they drop by the landmark, finding a placard that reads, "On this site in 1989, nothing happened." Of course, being sarcastic, it says Disney Plus users in Hong Kong have noticed an episode of The Simpsons is conspicuously missing. The 16th season of the iconic Fox animated show jumps from episode 11 to 13. When viewers in the city browse the flagship Disney streaming service, the missing episode 12, first broadcast in 2005, happens to be the one where Homer takes his family to China, where they visit Tiananmen Square and come across the placard that reads, "On this site in 89, nothing happened." It says it appears the episode has suffered precisely the kind of censorship it was written to ridicule, which is kind of funny. I mean, the show obviously poked fun at that in that instant. It's saying that the placard read that nothing happened here, like they were censoring what happened in history. If you don't know what happened in Tiananmen Square, of course, you may have seen the famous scene of the gentleman standing in front of the tank. Tiananmen Square was a huge event in China. Dex, that's pretty funny that they actually got rid of it. I mean, you wouldn't think that somebody like, a company like Disney would bow down to it, but guess what? They got to get their viewership over there.
There's how many millions and billions of people there that Disney can make money off of. If they choose not to do this, then they're kicked out of the country. So they want to play ball. They want to make, their millions and billions of dollars. So they kowtow and do. So really what this, you can blame Disney. That's one position. But really what you should think about is look at the country and what the leaders of the country are demanding, and what kind of control and censorship they put over their people, right? And over the businesses that come in, right? Businesses are going to come in and they're just going to say, how do I have to play ball here? Because I want to be a business that thrives here, right? And okay, well, if I have to remove episode 12, then we'll just remove episode 12, because I'm not going to give up $1 billion over episode 12, right? So, it's really about the country, and it's really about the leaders of the country and the rules that they put in place, and that type of government rule of the people that is really, we've talked about it over and over again. I mean, we talked about, the propaganda that comes out of the content that they create, like their number one movie this year being the one that's depicted of their Chinese military defeating the American military in NK, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, it's no surprise.
And
but these are the
driving
types
us
of things
back,
that keep
right?
happening.
And by the way, I mean, they say it's based on real events. As far as I have a family member that was stationed over there, and said that they did like legitimately get pushed back by the Chinese, right? So this new movie, which I still have not seen, I want to see it just to see what their angle is and why this was such a big movie, even though I know it's going to be subtitled or whatever. I want to see what their depiction of this is, and I would really love to actually get an opinion from, somebody who was there and how this actually worked. It says exclusive Chinese province targets journalist, foreign students with planned new surveillance system. It's it's only going to get worse. It says security officials in one of China's largest provinces have commissioned a surveillance system that they say want to use to track journalists and international students, among other suspicious people. It says documents reviewed by Reuters showed. It says a July 29 tender document published on the Henan provincial government's procurement website, reported in the media for the first time, details plan for a system that can compile individual files on such persons of interest coming to Henan, featuring 3,000 facial recognition cameras that can connect to various national and regional databases. It says 5 million won contract was awarded on September 17th to a Chinese tech company, Newsoft, which was required to finish building the system within 2 months of signing the contract. Separate documents published in the Henan government procurement website showed was unable to establish if the system was currently operating. Shenang-based Newsoft did not respond for request for comment, but it says that China is trying to build what some security experts describe as one of the world's most sophisticated surveillance technology networks. With millions of cameras in public places, public places, and increasing use of techniques such as smartphone monitoring and facial recognition. I mean, it's just, it's incredible. It says U.S.-based surveillance research firm IPVM, which has closely tracked the network's expansions and first identified the Henan document, said that the tender was unique in specifying journalists as surveillance targets and providing a blueprint for public security authorities to quickly locate them and obstruct their work. So actually stop them from doing their job. So we know, I know that, Serpenza or Serpentze or Zed, he has a lot of interesting stuff, and he videotaped a lot of this stuff. So if you are a tourist, or if you live there, if you're even on a visitor's visa, which is much harder to get now that they've taken English teaching out of the country, once you're there, if you are an American, you are supposed to actually check in. No matter where, if you move somewhere, you have to go to the local police department and actually tell them, hey, I'm living here. This is my address, blah, blah, blah. And you have to get like this visitor's pass thing. And if you move without telling them, it's actually, that's not a good thing. Well, he ended up doing some sneaky stuff to actually move into two places at the same time. He told them that he would live at this place and then go live here because they would actually stop by and raid his house and basically stop by and go, hey, are you still living here? What are you doing? What are you, what's going on? And they would be able to stop by at any point. So he stopped doing that. And what they would do is go to his old house and they would talk to his roommate. His roommate would say, oh, he's just out getting lunch or this or that. And they actually were able to figure it out and come to the new location because someone narked, and the whole society, basically, they have a law there that if you are living somewhere in a certain amount of time, that if you own a building or you're renting to somebody, that you have to tell somebody if somebody has moved in, or if they think somebody is living there that is a foreign citizen. My point is is they will track you down to anywhere you go. They have a track on all of the people that are there. It's not like here. Think about that. Dex, imagine if we actually kept track of every single illegal immigrant here, or people's visas that had expired, or people that even had visas. I mean, I would guess that we would probably...
Well, we do.
Would we track all of the people... would we do it like that? I mean, would we raid their houses and stop door to door?
Well, I mean, we could if we had all that information. We do track. We know who's here, and we know who's gone through or been touched at some point by, a system, whether it be, immigration at a border or, coming in correctly or incorrectly, right? If they've been seen. If they haven't been, then no. But I mean, we have a lot of data. I don't think we necessarily
I
use
guess
it
you're
the
right.
same way they do. Like we don't
No.
run surveillance cameras.
We
and
do.
such.
We do. We just don't tell. That's right. I mean,
Yeah. We don't tell. It's not public. And then how it's used, it's not necessarily in the face of everyone to see how it's being used against the community so that it changes behavior, right? When you're ridiculed on a billboard for jaywalking in the street in China and you've got your face up there and it says this person's a criminal for doing that in front of everybody, that sort of changes the behavior. And that's done in a public way, right? Public ridicule. And that's part of their system. We don't necessarily, we do that in different ways here, but yeah.
No. I thought about what I said. I thought about what I think that they probably, in fact, if you think about it, they probably have illegal immigrants tracked down to a T2 because they have it through the cell phones. There's definitely something going on. We found out through Snowden that they could monitor any cell phone on the planet. So I actually, okay, I'll correct myself. They're doing it openly, and they raid and they knock on your door and they'll come and check on you. And they are pretty good at tracking people even when they sneak around in China. Because in China, you don't truly own anything. That means you're almost always renting. So you're renting from somebody, and then they put in that law to catch people that were moving to place. And you will get in trouble if you rent to somebody and do not declare it. Like, if you rent to two guys, one of them's a U.S. citizen, and you only write down that there's one person living there, you can actually be put in jail, or your social credit score will go down, or whatever else. But I thought that I just thought about it after I said it. This is a live show. The U.S. totally tracks everybody that comes in from other countries. They're just not telling you they are, because you know that they have. If 9 years ago with the technology in 2012, 11, 10. If they were tracking every single cell phone on the planet, including people in France or Denmark or Norway or Russia or wherever it is, if they were tracking that back then, what do you think they're doing now? They say they deleted all those call logs, but come on. Yeah, in hindsight, I spoke and put my foot right in my mouth. Lead dispenser again, thank you. Thank you, Adam Dex. Our white hats, Jacob too, my opinion. Earth Observer will thank you. I'm guessing you're responding to somebody saying black hats or something. I always think it's funny. It's like, if you saw me with my 4 kids, you probably realize how normal we are. I do appreciate everybody that I appreciate everybody that actually does believe in us, and there are people that have believed in us from the beginning. I know that a lot of people have come and gone as far as people that have followed us and stuff over the years, followed me since I was doing videos out of my car. I want to say thank you to the people that have popped back in, even if they left for 6 months or whatever it was. Thank you for supporting us. I think that we do have an overall goal. We are close to getting back on track for that, but we've hit so many downhills, it's not even funny. Thank you guys. And then improvements planned for U.S. military bases in Guam, Australia to counter China. Well, before we get to that, I do want to remind you, if you do want to prep and support the show at the same time, I would definitely head over to get Essentials of Life at marfooglenews.com/prep. This is powered by My Patriot Supply. You can get everything from short and long-term survival food. You can get tech, gadgets, survival gear, bags, power supplies, pretty much anything you can think of, from fire start, all sorts of cool stuff. From iodine pills to medical packs, just everything is there, to survival books. You can go over marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, it's very easy to shop there, and it has basically a one-stop shop. Most importantly, though, if you don't have backup food, this is only going to get more expensive as time goes on, especially if we're looking at hyperinflation or anything else. It's going to affect companies like this. If you do want to get long-term stored food, once you have it, then you can kind of check it off your list, and it stays good for 20 years. That's the whole point. So it's not really like, oh, I'll wait until it's on sale. It's not really going to go on sale. There is $100 off on a 3-month supply when you use our link. Make sure to go check that out. If you do support that, then they end up sending us a commission of that. It helps us. Anything you may get there, that ends up helping our show with a commission. So we've always told you exactly what is up. We don't say, oh, you go here but we have told you honestly about everything that we have ever pushed on the show is stuff that we use and believe in. So that is something, everything that I have ever pushed on the show, it's because I have personally shopped there or I have used that service myself. So again, that's something that I want you to know. All right. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. The really important part, make sure to get air and water filtration. These are both really extremely important things. Water filtration could save 90% of the population. I honestly think that if they say that 90% of us would die because we wouldn't have drinkable, potable water, if everyone got prepared and had this kind of technology, we would at least be able to last until the power got turned back on. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about Guam. Do you want to hit on this one as far as what the Pentagon is saying?
Yeah, so they're obviously looking to spend more and update their bases, specifically in Guam and in Australia, and they're doing it under the guise of countering China. So this is probably the ripe time for them to ask for that. And it's also, at least from a standpoint of what's going on with the tension between the two countries, if ever you were going to say, hey, give us money to upgrade, this is a good time to do it, right? There's a good excuse. But on the flip side, they actually need this. They're saying they need it. And there's this real and obvious threat with China right now. And it seems like that's getting extremely, closer to the brink, especially with Taiwan, and how and what it's going to involve the U.S., how the U.S. is going to be involved. And obviously our positioning is going to be, coming from Guam, Hawaii, Australia, how we manage, everything into the Pacific and into the South China Sea area.
And as far as the South China Sea, if you're new here and you don't follow everything that goes on here as far as the stuff we've covered, I've been covering the Spratly Islands and their growth there and everything that they have put into place. And just recently, we talked to military members they say that they are stationed Navy and that they have gone on 2 deployments as far as South China Sea. In just the last 2 years, their boat or whatever they're stationed on has gone over to the South China Sea. They said that they have militarized the entire South China Sea. Like everywhere has a checkpoint or a basically like a flotilla of kind of these checkpoints throughout the South China Sea. China is basically trying to track everything that goes in there, especially since they passed that law or Dex, what did they call that? Did they call it like an order that they wanted every ship from every country to declare that they were going through, into the South China Sea or into that area?
Yeah, they wanted to control the water, so they required everyone to check in with them, with China as they entered that area, or at least that's what they were asking for.
Yeah, they're asking. Not everybody's going to do it, especially when they're, some of the people they're asking to do it feel like they're going through international waters and they shouldn't have to check in with anybody, and it's Freedom of Navigation Act type stuff. But there are areas which are now, highly debated, basically with China saying that it is their sea and that it's their kind of their territory, and the rest of the world saying, no, it's open waters. But the people that I've spoke to to lower level Navy personnel, and they said that it's insane. When they saw it in person for the first time, they couldn't believe it. Some of the flotillas, as far as these fishing vessels, many of these are still in at least small chains. So most of you saw the pictures of when 200 of them were linked together at the South China Sea and by Taiwan and this whole section here. They still have these massive, massive fishing vessels all chained up and linked together, but in different points. So they have like mini cities almost, because when they're chained together, they can go from boat to boat, and they have militia living on these like mini boat cities kind of, because they have different things on all the boats. They are converting massive amounts of civilian ships into military boats. Why are they doing that unless they're thinking they need to use massive amounts of civilian boats on top of their world's largest navy to do what? Just to take Taiwan? I don't think so. I think that they're preparing for the possibility of the whole world stepping in. So, my opinion is that there's a lot there. I do want to hit on this very quickly. We actually covered this before. We covered this last week. It says football field-sized asteroid to approach Earth on Monday night, one of several in the coming weeks. The reason why I wanted to cover this again is because of the few others that are actually coming. I want to point out, and I know this sounds crazy, and this is just my opinion, I have been looking at all of the different things for the last 4 years regarding asteroids and regarding Space Force and regarding Sunspot Observatory shutting down. As far as some of the other things that are going on, I'm going to do a separate video for this because I think I'm going to end up showing you guys some stuff that you probably haven't put together on your own. Hopefully most of you have seen what's going on here. There's a lot of really obvious weird things going on, including, obviously, the sightings and meteor sightings are going up. The data shows it quadrupling over the last 4 years. In fact, 5 years, it's actually gone up. And why is that? Are we going through some sort of field of asteroids? Of course, I know that there is a chunk of our audience that says, well, there is no asteroids, there's no space. I get you. So what are these things? Also, in your opinion, if that is your belief, what are these, and what is your belief on what these end up being? Are those missiles from other places being completely serious? What are your thoughts on this, and how do you explain this to somebody else? If somebody says, I saw an asteroid, what do you say that is? Either way, why are the numbers going up so dramatically? Why are they doing drills and massive drills and simulations, simulating a massive asteroid hitting New York? And do you have a weird feeling about this most recent DART, D-A-R-T, double asteroid redirection test that was just fired off a few days ago? Do you have a weird feeling about that? Of course, that was the test nuke that they launched on a rocket, and it's going to hit Didymos, and it's going to be a huge event, and it's going to hit them and smash it, and they're going to see if it puts it off course. Why are they doing that? Well, who knows? But I have more to that to add, because and I'm going to have to do it in the next couple days, because very, very soon here, what I'll be talking about is going to be coming out. So got to get to it before that comes out. All right, and then, of course, Russia and West. One mistake from nuclear conflict in most dangerous moment since Cold, warns UK Admiral. It says the world is one mistake from all-out nuclear war thanks to Vladimir Putin's dangerous games in Eastern Europe, warns an ex-Navy chief. It says Moscow is now amassing 100,000 troops at its Ukrainian border, and it's also supporting Belarus's dictator Alexander Lukashenko as he weaponizes migrants against the EU. It says, and after accusing the U.S. of conducting nuclear bomber drills 20 kilometers from its border, the Kremlin said its nuke forces were on alert. And it says, and it had stepped up its military partnership with China. It says Admiral Lord West told the Sun Online that the situation is extremely dangerous and risky, with Putin playing games in the area of gray warfare, things short of war. He continued, in terms of nuclear clock, I think that we are closer to midnight than we have been certainly since the 1960s probably. And that's because Russia's silly behavior in Eastern Europe. The nuclear clock, sometimes called the doomsday clock, is a symbol originating from 1947, which represents the likelihood of a global disaster. The ex-Royal Navy chief said one mistake could lead to an all-out nuke conflict between the West and Moscow. He said, by miscalculation, things could accelerate and you could end up fighting and no one wanting it, and then only takes a little step for someone to do something stupid, like using one missile. Because one missile means more missiles are used, and so on. When you play silly games, things can happen by miscalculation. That's the worry. On Russia's partnership with China, Lord West believes in the short term, Putin is a bigger threat to Europe than the two nuclear powers combined. He said, right now it suits Russia and China to work together, but in reality, Russia is scared of China, and they need to be with that huge land border with China, with its huge population, and that empty part of Russia, which has all sorts of minerals. For the moment, they're working together because they see the West as hostile to them. So basically, they're working together now. They're just going to jump on the side. In fact, Russia, everybody I've seen says that they'll jump on the side that greater benefits them. If it benefited them greater, they would actually jump on our side in a heartbeat. I mean, we have had an off and on relationship, to say the least.
Well, and Adam, if you want to pull up the picture that's in, I just put it in Screener. It comes from this article, but what's interesting when you talk about Russia and China, we've talked about this many times. And I think when you think about our allies, like imagine if Russia attacked someone in Europe, whether it be the UK or Spain or France, we would in turn jump into that and protect them. I think the same sort of happens with this relationship between China and Russia. And we've heard it in the past, even during the past cold conflict, that they said, hey, anytime there was a plan to launch something at Russia, they also had to plan to launch at China at the same time, period. There was no question about it. It had to happen. And when you think about this, these numbers are pretty staggering when you look at, the soldiers, the aircraft, the tanks, the warships, and the nukes, and you add them up. And when I say add them up, you're adding Russia and China together against just us, right?
But here's the problem. Why isn't it all of our allies combined too? You see the issue here?
That is part of the equation, but I would say that our allies don't actually necessarily have as much as we do. We pretty much have the lion's share. I don't think that UK necessarily rolls in another, 2,000 warships or another, a whole lot more nukes. We pretty much have a lot of those nukes placed over there, so they're part of ours, right? But that's not to say that they don't have something. They do. I don't want to dismiss that. But they're not as significant as Russia and China individually are. And when you combine those two, they're huge.
So China now has the largest navy, but they don't have as many nukes. Russia has all the nukes, but they don't have though they actually have 600 warships. How in the world, though? Are we at 490? I guess. How is this correct? Russia has 600 warships. That would mean that they have more warships than the U.S. now. Did Russia and China both surpass us? I mean, at one point, I knew we were the largest navy. This was just a couple years ago, right? Russia has 13,000 tanks, and we have 6,100. I could see why, because they have some of the lower tech stuff. We probably have this super incredible aircraft. Here is where our strength lies, and this is actually a huge deal. So them combined have 7,400 aircraft. We have 13,000. They have 7,000. So this is combined. Every aircraft that they have publicly, this is our main strength, is because of our Air Force. But when you look at those soldiers, yeah, we are outnumbered. I will say this. I do believe that the USA has some most badass stuff My fear, though, is if somebody got in and infiltrated our amazing, powerful, beautiful military and ended up screwing that up in some way. They have done it. That Gen X dude says, remember, we were allies in WW2. What if? No, that's what I'm saying. It's flipped. We've had it on and off. We've fought alongside them, right? But that was over literally the day it was over. And all of a sudden it was a scramble for who's going to take over territory. And it wasn't like we were friends. They were doing what they wanted for their own gains. They saw an opportunity. Well, and their own security
they were on
too.
The same side, but I don't know that we were like super buddy.
Is there any conflict where we have fought side by side with China though? At all? Like even for a day?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in that scenario in WW2, Japan had invaded China. So for us to go after Japan, we would be, in a theory, helping China. So yeah.
That is so okay. So kind of crazy to think Japan, this little island, was just so ballsy that it was taking huge China. China is giant, just boom. But their technology was so behind. So it's like, it's crazy how technology made the make it or break it for this. It's like if you had the stronger technology and the better gear, it's like you could be a tiny little country and you could take the whole world. That's why Germany almost and could have taken over the world. I mean, that's insane. One country taking over, the entire world. It's just, it's all the area. I mean, look at this. The U.S. has a pretty formidable military all by itself. Now, this was reduced. A lot of this stuff was reduced when President O was in office. He reduced a lot of numbers, and I don't know why. It was like a long game that was decades in the planning and had everything drilled out from beginning to end, But that's not possible. They wouldn't. The whole world's corporations that own the actual governments, they wouldn't cooperate. They're not good at cooperating and branching out to thousands of locations and sending the same message through thousands and thousands of places. I mean, oh wait,
those global bankers don't get together, do they?
Yeah, and it's not like they and they 6 families that own media companies. It's not like they're able to send the same message to every news. Oh, they are. Oh, that's right. Oh, and then corporations, they're really good at having thousands of locations, no matter where they are on the planet, all look the same. Oh, so they're good at cooperating and sending one message through thousands of places. Yeah, it sounds unrealistic. If you don't believe corporations own the world, then you are uneducated. Or unresearched, I should say that. You might be educated. You just might not be well-researched. Russia says Zircon hypersonic missile hit target in latest test. Why are they testing it? That's a good question. Russia said on Monday it had carried out another successful test launch of its Zircon hypersonic cruise missile, hailed by President Vladimir Putin as part of the new generation of unrivaled arms systems. Now, most people say, oh, well, who knows if they're lying? And there are some people that I hear that just say all of it's propaganda. They don't even have one, this and that. That's what was said in the beginning. Experts here have, of course, said, they confirmed it. There are a certain amount of people that say, I don't believe anything, right? Even if you don't, I would err on the side of caution and always, give the benefit of the doubt, because it's better to be prepared for something that could happen rather than say, oh, it couldn't happen. Don't just automatically poo-poo it. As far as we have seen people leave our Pentagon because they say China is ahead of us, and then there have been military generals that said that Russia is ahead of us in certain areas. China is ahead in technology, and that's going back to why Japan, this little, the small country compared to China, why they went over and were able to take it. Well, the answer to that question was because they had better technology, better gear. And now our Pentagon staff are saying that China has beat us in AI and in technology and in computing.
Yeah, this is easy to
That's
prove,
not good.
right?
Go ahead.
This is easy to prove. In other words, we have intelligence from our adversaries because we go in and we try to gather intelligence. We also have technology that allows us to spy on them. So to determine whether or not they have a hypersonic, missile, it's not that difficult for us to prove it. From satellite technology, maybe not in real time when it happens, but post time after the fact, or maybe even in real time, we're able to detect and monitor and validate those things. We have a lot of brain power that are looking at what the other side is doing on a constant basis. So if they didn't have this, if this was all just fake, somebody in our military would sort of put their nose up at it and say, yeah, they're just talking, out their rear end and making themselves look good. But in reality, what we keep hearing from our top brass and military is we're behind on this stuff. We need more of this technology. We're behind on the whether it's hypersonic or whether it's cyber or whatever, or AI, every one of these things, they keep saying we're behind. They're not coming out saying, yeah, we're doing great things and we're not really that confident on what the other guy can do. If they were saying that, that would mean the intelligence is telling them and they'd be able to tell that it's not necessarily up to snuff. I believe that they, being Russia, are actually have hypersonic missiles because they would not be saying this for so long and nobody would be disputing it. Everybody would be disputing if it was false.
Exactly. Well, and as far as so just assuming it's real, assuming that it's all good and that they are the best and they've done it better than us, that's not good. That's not good for anybody. Because if we have tested ours and ours have failed and for some reason we are actually behind, just say we don't have some secret missile that's way ahead of theirs and it's being held from the public, but we actually have an advantage in this, but it's just so top secret that nobody knows. It's still not good because then they would think that we don't have it and they would launch anyways. If there's no mutually assured destruction, do you think, and I'm going to take a vote and I'm going to turn on chat, if there was no mutually assured destruction, do you think that either China or Russia would attempt to take us out as a first strike? So basically, this is a one or the other. If we had no mutually assured destruction, press 1 if you think China or Russia would do a first strike. 2 if you don't think they would ever do it. 1 or 2. Again, 1 if you think if there was no mutually assured destruction. 1 if you think China or Russia would take us out first strike. Or 2 if you think that they would not. One of the opinions that I see a lot is that people say, well, they wouldn't destroy us because they have money invested here. They have so much stuff here. If they take us out, then they have no competition. Plus, if they did win in a conflict, they would own all of this anyways. If you conquer a nation, then better. Look at that. So a lot of ones. That is a lot of ones.
Yeah, that's a small price to pay. Like, what, if they could take over the U.S. and say in exchange for the debt, they wouldn't worry about that debt. They're not going to be like, oh, we need all that money. They would much rather have control of the U.S. They would take it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, of course they would. I mean, if they could take the U.S. out in one day, that would be a big one. So the Zircon went well. And then Scoop, I ran to the store preparing to enrich weapons-grade uranium. It warns U.S. Wow. Look at that style. Look at this. Like how they have pictures of other dudes. That was taken last Saturday, by the way. They already got it framed. I mean, like, I wonder who the photography is for them, right? Just a blue background somewhere in.
Looks like Olin Mills.
Oh my gosh! No, it looks like. the guy from Peter Pan. The live action with Robin Williams. It looks like the old guy grows up and he's bald or whatever. Hook's little assistant, Smee. Is it Smee? Yeah, I think it's Smee. Smee. Anyways, moving on. His pirate assistant. So, okay, I totally ADD'd out there for a minute. Iranian President Abraham Raisi holds a press conference. It says it has shared intelligence over the past 2 weeks with the U.S. and several European allies, suggesting that I ran to the store, is taking technical steps to prepare to enrich uranium to 90% purity. Of course, that means they're trying to make a nuclear weapon. 2 U.S. sources briefed at the issue tell me. It says, why it matters enriching to 90% would bring Iran to the store closer than ever to the nuclear threshold. The Israel warnings come as nuclear talks resume in Vienna with Iran to the store returning to the negotiating table on a Monday after the 5-month hiatus. The state of play, it says, enrichment alone will not produce a bomb. Estimates vary as how long it would take for to the store to master the additional technological requirements. But U.S. and intelligence sources have put the timeline on 1 to 2 years. That would put it like right at 2024, 2023, 2024, which of course, for whatever reason, Deagle and all of these other things line up for 2024. All of these people just mysteriously disappearing off the planet. That Gen X dude says, also, we have a desert stockpile of planes also. That Gen X dude, remember, we were allies in WW2, and then is the fighting a distraction for something bigger? Good question. Amazing how your news has predicted a lot. I also think E. Snowden is right too. Makes you think. One love, Marfia. Thanks, Gen X dude. And again, if you look, I don't like putting my foot in my mouth. And if I do, I make a mistake video. I think it comes down to when people are hating, a lot of it is they don't like me, or they're, hate to say it, but they just, they are just annoyed by me and they just want to take me down a peg. I've never had that urge to take somebody down a peg. I don't get the whole online trolling thing. I don't get it. It's like, if you don't want to watch content, just don't watch it. But they say that they're being a hero because they're saving other people from me and because I'm fooling people or something. First of all, we're showing you the facts here. I think people don't want to accept that this is going to happen. People grasp onto anything like saying, oh, well, the president said that we're not going to go into lockdown. Okay. They also said that they couldn't mandate things. They also said that they would never, it's not their job to push things on you. They said a whole lot of things. They also said they would stand up for Taiwan. And then the next week saying, oh, well, one China. Well, we won't step in. How many times have politicians flip-flopped? You think that so they will say that. And why? Because people are asking, is there going to be lockdowns? They're talking a lot about this new thing. Well, of course they are. In a week from now, when there's a different death toll, right, or different supposed death toll, that can change things right away. And people will be begging for it, saying, do it now. I want to stay in my house. Because guess what? People will be afraid then. You have to bring the fear before you bring anything else. And it could change in a heartbeat. And they would have an excuse to do it. People would go, well, you said you weren't going to do this. And then he'll go back to that speech and he'll go, no, I said if people all get this, because at that point, they're going to say it's because the people that didn't get that thing, they're going to say, oh, no. My quote, sir, kind reporter, was, if everyone does their part and does this and does that, then there will be no necessity for additional lockdowns. Watch. We're going to get to that point and they're going to go, well, people didn't get there, so now we have to lock down. Will it be for 2? Oh, and they said it will only be 2 weeks. Do you remember that? Back in what year? Did you ever think you would be going, oh, yeah, they said 2 weeks. What year? This year? Last year? Oh, that was the year before. So do I believe when a president goes on for an address and says, we will not do this? No, I don't. Ever. Because guess what? He could be me, even if he meant well, and even if he meant that and says, no, I don't think there's a necessity to that. They also said that we don't think it's necessary to shut down flights to certain places. Guess what? In a week, we do think it's necessary. It's going to happen, people. 2.0 is going to happen at some point, and it may be for that future outbreak, but we don't know. Dex, do you think, and I know it's hard for us to say anything, right? As far as like predicting anything, because we don't want to predict anything. But do you think it almost looks like they're setting up for 2.0?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is hard to.
It's your view that that you don't think places could really do it again, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, they say one thing and they always do another. And if you believe that, if you are naive enough to believe that when a politician tells you something that they can't flip-flop, then maybe you've had your head in the sand for a long time, because no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what country you're in, every politician will say one thing, and for various reasons. Sometimes it's because maybe they were maniacal and they didn't want to do that, and they're just lying. They're flat out lying. Or it may be because they thought one thing and then later were educated about something and decided to change their mind. Or maybe they were pressured by somebody to change their mind, right? There's lots of different reasons, but it happens all the time. So, we can't just trust one statement. If that was the case, go back to any of the politicians that ran and look at every statement they ran on, and every one of them has flip-flopped on it. So, yeah, just, you can't live on that. What you have to do is, I think, you got to look at the past. You got to look at what we've done, what we've said we would do and didn't do, what we said, what we made promises and then couldn't uphold. And then I think you have to look at the future and say, okay, what are the possible scenarios and how is it going to affect me, and what do I need to do to be prepared for that?
Well, and many people here are listening, obviously. Rennie, Kenna, thank you so much for following. Lead Dispenser, I like your website that shows the talking points. Yeah, again, I'm glad people are using it. Lily Boo, tip number 5, don't forget to pet prep. Pet prep. That reminded me right away of Laura, Florida Patriot 71. She's going through horrible cancer right now. Every day is a borrowed day right now, and she's getting closer and closer to the Lord. And luckily, she has really strong faith. But everybody, if you could pray for Laura, Florida Patriot 71, please, she needs it. And I really hope for just an absolute miracle. Another thing too is with our friend that had the double lung transplant. It's like, it's all about money. If she didn't have money, her husband had to call the manufacturer. The treatment before she got her transplantation was $20,000. A medication that it was 5 vials. Each vial was $20,000 without insurance. You'll never believe this. With insurance, and I'm sure you will believe it, $4,000 copay. And nobody has that. Even that after 5 vials, that's $20,000 cash, not covered. It's not a $10 copay for a visit. That's a $4,000 copay for a vial. He ended up calling, and he was a hero, and he said he pleaded the case. He even said, I will give my body. I was like, are you kidding? And he's like, no, I will give my body for scientific research. I will donate my body for scientific research if you guys help us with the $4,000 copay. They ended up doing it, and apparently it's like a tax write-off for the manufacturer. Sometimes the manufacturer will step in for the copay. I don't know if they really did it because of that, but he actually did. Maybe they saw that he was so willing to do it. Like he said, I'll volunteer my body for scientific research if you help us with this. If she didn't have that money, what would have happened? I'm pretty sure she would have died. Or what? Is she expected to do a GoFundMe for herself or something? I don't get it. Our system is so effed up. My point is, Florida Patriot 71, if she's dying of whatever cancer it is, I bet you there's something secret out there or something that some of the richest people in the world have access to that's on a testing basis or something that really it's just that they don't want to wipe out a whole money stream. I bet there's something out there that could cure it. Stem cell something or whatever. By the way, I missed Christine Broderick. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and thank you for your support. Been here a few years and you've always kept us a step ahead of the world's crisis. Thanks to you and Dex for all you do. Thank you. Appreciate that, Kristen. COD Mobile Extravaganza. This is Ezekiel 38 at the door. Great point. Lifeboat. The Lifeboat loves Marfoogle TV. Trolls troll because they cannot create. I think at some point it's like I just see them rewriting it and they're trying to like stab and try to hurt you, but it's like, why? Why wouldn't you just find something better to do? Tanya, what the flux? Flux capacitor. That's funny. What the flux? As in flux capacitor. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Dan Garwood, I appreciate you as well for subscribing. Thank you. Omicron. The W, the H, the O warns of high risk around globe. If you haven't noticed, new restrictions have come into play in multiple states, mostly the blue states, but there have been a ton of states that have already kicked up the notch and even warned their citizens of new restrictions, including the slight possibility of lockdown or voluntary stay-at-home orders, which basically there is even a possibility that, who knows, they might even say, please stay home for your own good and shorten hours so you don't have anywhere to go. So that would be one way. Dex, think about that. Even if they didn't do lockdown, what if they had it on the big business side and had them closed, like say at 3 p.m. or something? So all the Targets, Walmarts, all those places, this is something that they thought about and talked about during the first one. This is something that has kind of recycled. What about shutting down early? So there's really nowhere to go. If you went to the gym, you went here, you went there, and it all closed at 3, then it would have you kind of staying in your house.
Yeah, I think what we saw in the past was this had to come from at least a message from the Fed, but it was up to the states and the governors of each state, because that's the way our laws work, to actually do this. But when we see a message from the Fed, from say the administration, JB, we will certainly see states fall in line and start to do that. Not all of them, but some of them, just because they're going to. And you'll see some that won't. And we saw that, a year ago when that sort of happened, and there was, a sort of a push towards doing certain types of lockdowns or not. It is definitely a push right now for making sure that everybody gets certain things that they want them to have. And this is definitely one of the reasons they're pushing. There's a lot of questions out and a lot of unknowns, just to be fair, there's a lot of things that the medical community is trying to actually determine what exists and doesn't exist with this particular V, right? And this particular strain. And if it, how it affects people, how it reacts to certain things, et cetera. So there's a lot of unknowns that are out there. So we're seeing a lot of decisions being fueled without necessarily having full knowledge of what that is really going to be. If I'm making sense. I know I'm trying to talk around in circles here, and I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do or not to do.
No, I get what you're saying. You're basically saying, obviously there's It's really frustrating trying to talk through and trying to get past all of these stupid filters, which, by the way, if it wasn't for the way that we talk, we wouldn't be here. We've had so many friends and partners that have just disappeared. It's insane. We should be able to talk freely, and you say, oh, well, this guy, oh, he talks freely. Well, he also doesn't. He also has a multi-channel network, or he has somebody that they actually know that can protect them, or he has multiple strikes and very well could lose their channel like that. If we lose the channel, then we lose it pretty much. We pretty much lose our ability to speak to people. Say, oh, there's alternative platforms. Look at all the people that got deleted because they covered a certain letter, right? A letter of the alphabet, closer to the end of the alphabet. Almost everyone who covered that got just wiped out. Nobody hears anything about them anymore. Some people search them out. I have looked up a few of them. One is local here, lives in Washington. Almost no one even watches him anymore. Like 44 people or something. Saw 40 people watching. Somebody who was twice my size. That's insane to me. Like, how can you take somebody's ability to do this, to speak publicly? I don't understand it. That's why.
And Adam, we're running out of time on the YouTube channel, so we're right at the money now.
Okay, so what are we at 2?
Yeah, we're right at it. We need to flip over to GMs.
Okay, you guys, if you do want to follow us, basically what happens here is New York City may be at the start of the winter surge of CV. We're pointing out that almost all these different places are saying that it is a repeat cycle of number 1. So make sure to go over to our website and check it out. Make sure to go to our website and check everything else out. Make sure to follow our 3rd channel. If you like to follow along with the show, make sure to join that. That is where we will be doing the shoutro tonight. I want to thank Lifeboat. I'm going to be making a song for you. Thank you so much. And this is just my way of giving back. My music is not good music. It is just done on the spot with a looper. So once you realize how it's made, so we didn't have to deal with copyrights, then you would understand why it's funny. But anyways, thank you guys. For those of you that do like my little jingles and would like to see the very end of this show, make sure to go over to Marfoogle Jams. Appreciate you. Make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/offgrid. All right, Dex, thank you for your service. We will, again, make sure to go over and see the web-only content. A lot of really great stuff. There's a whole other show there. Dex, I appreciate you.
Much love. Great show.
Great tweets down there. Lots of crazy stuff. Looters looting other looters. Pretty funny. All right, love you guys, and thank you over on D-Live. Thank you, Tanya What the Flux, Capacitor, Dustin Layton, and the Lifeboat. Thank you